One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4.
You've been talking a little bit about information technology projects, IT projects, and engineering lately. And what's the difference in lean IT versus maybe just regular IT? Is there a difference?
I've been having many discussions with people from the Agile community, and I'm not sure what the history of Agile is, but I think they have many concepts that are very similar to Lean. One of the concepts that struck me most was the notion that you test along the development, and this sounds very similar to a Jidoka concept, and very different from traditional IT where you would develop something and then somebody else would do the test. So I think this idea that the same person who develops the code develop their own testing methods, and that you start integrating the test with the code and that you automate the tests. I think it has at some point it becomes marginally difficult and has some drawbacks with very large code, but it's very healthy and very similar to Jidoka of saying that you stop and you first, before you stop, you know how to spot mistakes and how to stop when you see mistakes. The second idea I think is very lean is the notion of sprint and the fact that we go into short runs. And rather than have a whole waterfall system, that functionalities are re-examined with the customer as we develop. I think that's a very interesting idea. So very different from traditional IT where you would have this whole master plan and that you cascade, and which means that whenever you ask for anything from the IT department, the only answer you have is that it will take 18 months. So I think these two ideas in the Agile community are very powerful. The one place of Lean that I haven't found in the Agile world is the notion of standardized work in Kaizen. It's particularly personal Kaizen. Again, I probably have a very partial view of this, but my experience has been that what the programmer does, what the geek does, is very much his own space. And nobody's gone very much into that. And certainly in Lean, we would develop standards, if only something very basic of defining name standards for variables and bits of software that make it a lot easier to share amongst the team. And the other thing we work with IT people is the notion of Kaizen, which is how do you improve code? I mean, certainly in Agile, there's the notion of refactoring, that once the code is done, you go back to it. But I've yet to see a good example of this in practice. Maybe I've just not seen the right practice. But so one thing we work with the Agile community here in France in terms of Lean is how do we bring on top of the notions they already have this idea of Kaizen and standardized work in the coding practice.
So you're saying that the drop-off that you've seen is a standardized work, that it's just that the Agile community has really adopted the continuous working philosophy and the short iterations and things like that of Lean, but they really don't go through a process that they really standardize work well.
That's what I've seen from the cases I've seen. I'm far from an expert on Lean IT. I think it's not very surprising. We have the same problems in engineering. What is standardized work really at its most basic form in engineering? It's checklists. It's checklists and agreement that certain things we're going to do in a certain way because it's the least wasteful way to do it. So so far, I mean, we are working on this with some friends I have in the IT world. But so far, this is not what I've heard from the Agile community. It's probably in there. I mean, they've been incredibly inventive and very creative, and they've done a lot of things. Another concept that is not so clear in the IT world, in the Lean community, is the notion of takt time. So we do have some notion of continuous flow through the sprints and through Scrum and all these things, but there is a limit to that when you go into bigger projects. And the notion of takt time, that you give a rhythm to deliveries, which is based on the nature of the project itself, is something that we have a lot of discussions about. And which brings us to a deeper discussion that I've yet to see in the Agile community, but again, it depends which projects and which people you meet, which is a deep understanding of customer satisfaction. What does the customer really want? Which, I mean, has to be one of the core problems of IT. I mean, we'll look at some brilliant guys like Google. You know, Google does just one thing. You know, it's just one slot. And if you don't get it right, if you misspell it, Google will help you to get it right. You know, it's a very simple functionality. Then look at all the other portals you have where they tell you, you know, from the weather to the stock market to, what color socks you should wear this morning. I mean, it's a big mess. And as a user in IT, I think that defining user satisfaction is very difficult, mostly because there are many, many different clients. There's the end user. Usually there's all these people in between. There's the provider. There's all these people. So this is another field where we do a lot of work with the Agile guys in terms of going all the way to the user and understanding what customer satisfaction really means in terms of software.